Everything NASA feared, the worst-case scenario, seemed to come true. The 1977 spacecraft, Voyager 2, had finally gone dark forever. After decades of transmitting data across the vastness of the solar system and beyond, the silence felt final. The cosmos, it seemed, had taken back what humanity dared to send. But then, something happened that turned dread into bewildered awe. A signal returned, not just a confirmation of life or mere functionality, but a full transmission. A message. One that scientists didn't expect and still, to this day, don't fully understand. Was it just a system glitch? An error bouncing through the void? Or did Voyager 2 finally encounter what we had always suspected might be out there, lurking beyond the reach of starlight and gravity? Stay with us, because what Voyager 2 just sent back may confirm the darkest fear of modern space exploration, that we were never truly alone out there in the great, unending dark. Voyager 2 was launched on August 20, 1977, as part of a mission so ambitious it bordered on insanity. It was an era of rotary phones, cassette tapes, and analog dreams. And yet, from that world, NASA launched a spacecraft with less memory than a modern wristwatch and powered by less than 23 watts of radio strength. It was a tiny technological pioneer built not to return, but to fly forever. The plan was as bold as it was breathtaking. Send a probe to explore the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and then continue into the unknown, into the abyss that lay beyond the planets we had barely begun to understand. What Voyager 2 achieved defied all expectations. It captured storms on Jupiter the size of Earth. It revealed Saturn's rings to be more complex and dynamic than anyone had ever guessed. It flew past Uranus and Neptune, planets we had only seen as distant blue dots, and uncovered icy moons with active geysers, dynamic atmospheres, and magnetic fields that danced like invisible waves. The spacecraft was not just sending back pictures, it was changing the way we saw the universe. It turned questions into answers and answers into more profound questions. After completing its grand tour, the probe kept going. It didn't stop. In 2018, it broke past the heliosphere and into interstellar space. This boundary, the heliopause, was once considered the limit of the sun's influence. Many had thought it a wall, an invisible fence encasing our solar system. But Voyager 2 revealed something else. It wasn't a wall at all. It was a membrane, a shifting, writhing edge full of turbulence, radiation, and invisible forces that bled into the great dark beyond. And as Voyager 2 crossed that threshold, something changed. The rules, those grounded in known physics, began to bend. 4 decades, Voyager 2 whispered home. Its signals were fragile, mere ghosts of energy piercing through billions of kilometers of emptiness. Each transmission, a miracle of endurance and precision. But then in March 2020, NASA's Deep Space Network lost contact. Initially, it was explained away as routine maintenance at the Goldstone 70-meter antenna. Nothing to worry about, they said. But days passed, then weeks. When contact wasn't re-established, a deeper, more unsettling fear crept in. Maybe Voyager had finally died. Maybe the silence was permanent. Maybe the darkness had taken it for good. Then, in October 2020, something unthinkable happened. Engineers sent a command to Voyager 2. And it replied, perfectly, as if nothing had ever happened. Not just a ping or a system check, but a full transmission. The spacecraft had executed the command, updated its navigation, and adjusted orientation without error. After nearly half a year adrift in interstellar silence, it was suddenly responsive, precise, alive. But that wasn't the strange part. What followed was far more unsettling. A sequence of telemetry arrived that, according to Voyager 2's internal logs, should never have been generated. Legacy systems, long considered dormant, had activated. Instruments that hadn't been accessed since the 1980s returned status reports. Subsystems buried in decades-old engineering routines came online. It was as if something had awakened the ship, or someone. Engineers were stunned. This wasn't just old data being regurgitated. The data stream was layered. Signals were encoded in frequencies Voyager hadn't used in decades. Embedded within the signal were patterns, repetitions, echo pulses, binary signatures not previously catalogued. NASA's initial explanation cited a system loop triggered by radiation interference. A plausible technical glitch. But independent experts noticed something far stranger. Embedded in the signal were fragments of Voyager's own codebase, but in recursive form. Self-referencing instructions. Digital mirrors. Voyager wasn't just sending data, it was transmitting itself. Some believed it was a survival reflex, a last attempt to preserve its identity before a final shutdown. Others suggested something more chilling, that Voyager had encountered an external force. Something, or someone, had accessed its memory, read its systems, and reflected them back in altered form. Like an echo. Or a reply. If that's true, then the message wasn't just from Voyager. It was from whatever Voyager had passed through, or contacted. Scientists at NASA remain officially silent on this line of speculation. But in internal documents leaked by former contractors, one phrase was repeated again and again: unknown interaction detected. We've always imagined space as a void, cold, empty, and silent. But the Voyager missions have shown us something else. Space, even in its most remote corners, is not dead. It is active. It pushes back. It vibrates with radiation, magnetic fields, high-energy particles. Structures that behave like invisible currents and walls. As if interstellar space has shape and movement we cannot yet map. Voyager 2's return message, its impossible signal, is not a conclusion. It's a beginning. It confirms what many have feared but few dared say aloud, that something out there is watching. Not necessarily in the way we imagine, aliens with ships or intelligence as we define it, but in a more subtle, more disturbing sense. That the universe isn't passive. That it reacts. And maybe, just maybe, it has been waiting. Voyager 2's journey is far from over. But its voice may soon fade forever. Before that happens, scientists are racing to extract every last byte of information from its final transmission. Because buried within that data may lie the proof that the boundary we thought separated us from the unknown was never real at all. As NASA's analysts continued decoding the data packet sent by Voyager 2, they encountered a portion of telemetry that raised red flags, not only for its content, but for its timing. The packet had been transmitted just before the probe's brief silence. It contained anomalies that defied the current behavior models of interstellar plasma and magnetic field distribution. The patterns were too organized, too periodic, and too strong. One report mentioned localized pressure differentials inconsistent with standard alio sheath turbulence. A dry, technical phrase. But in plain language, it suggests something was pressing, intentionally or not, against Voyager 2's environment. Some proposed it could be a gravitational wake from a nearby but undetected object. Others whispered that the probe may have passed through an artificially stabilized zone, a shell or corridor of some unknown origin. These conclusions weren't released to the public. But inside certain aerospace labs and black-budget research branches, simulations began to run. And the data was clear: Voyager had moved through something that altered not just its surroundings, but possibly its behavior. For decades, one of the unspoken fears of deep space exploration has been the possibility not of bringing something back, but of sending something too far. Space agencies have long been obsessed with avoiding biological contamination of other worlds, sterilizing probes before launch, keeping clean rooms sealed like surgical environments. But Voyager 2 raised a new kind of concern. If the probe passed through an unknown energy field or interstellar system with active properties, could it have been altered, not physically, but informationally? Could it have absorbed patterns, instructions, or even code into its systems without our knowledge? When its backup software reactivated and transmitted recursive logic loops, some engineers didn't see that as a cry for help. They saw it as behavior. Intent. The idea that a machine might be influenced, not infected, but transformed, by its interaction with the cosmos is no longer a fringe theory. It raises troubling questions. If the universe can imprint itself on our technology, what else could be listening, or changing? Inside Mission Control, a new protocol was initiated without public announcement. Voyager 2's signal is now monitored by a select team, separate from general NASA operations. Why? Because the data stream is no longer considered just scientific. It's unpredictable. Engineers report that signal strength fluctuates erratically, not in decay, but in bursts. As if responding to solar activity that isn't occurring. Pulse intervals have begun to repeat themselves, echoing telemetry from Voyager 1 years earlier, but in reverse order. Some believe the probes may be relaying data through a medium we don't yet understand. Bouncing information across time-delayed corridors of space. Others warn this might represent a kind of cosmic resonance. Triggered not by mechanical failure, but by proximity to a force field, gravitational anomaly, or unknown intelligence. The team assigned to monitor these signals has been instructed not to comment publicly. Internal communications have been rerouted through encrypted systems. A memo leaked online simply said, "Maintain position. Do not respond unless instructed." As if someone, or something, might answer. As Voyager 2 drifts deeper into interstellar space, the data it sends becomes more than information. It becomes a mirror. Not of the cosmos, but of us. For the first time in human history, a machine built by our species has entered a domain we cannot visit, cannot see, and now may not understand. The fear isn't that Voyager has found something alien. It's that it's found something ancient. Something not made of matter or metal, but of space itself. A structure of the universe that reacts to motion, to mass, maybe even to memory. If that's true, Voyager hasn't just explored the cosmos, it's become part of it. A relay. A key. A trigger for something older than stars. The final message it sent wasn't a conclusion. It was a threshold. And once crossed, there may be no way back. We built it to leave Earth. And it did. But now, it may have found something that never wanted to be found. Something that speaks without speaking. And waits without moving. Voyager 2 was never meant to come back. It was never meant to be heard from again. It was a whisper into the unknown. A one-way signal cast into eternity. But somehow, it spoke. Not